Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
I'd like to tell you a true story about how I became the kind of person who would follow an old man into the men's bathroom in hopes of changing the world. But first, a confession. When I see a need to take an action that would help make the world a little bit better, sometimes I don't do it. I use the excuse that doing so just won't make a difference. When I catch myself doing this, I am reminded of the words of Gandhi. It's the action, not the fruit of the action that's important. It may not be in your power, it may not be in your time that you'll see any fruit, but that doesn't stop you from doing the right thing. You may never know what results come from your action, but if you do nothing, there will be no result. In 1992, I and a group of volunteers traveled to Bangladesh to visit Professor Muhammad Yunus and his Grameen Bank. Our group, called Results, teaches people how to use their voice in order to change policies that help poverty persist. Yunus has done something extraordinary. He has created a bank that makes tiny loans to people living in poverty exclusively. His very first borrower was a woman named Sophia Begum. She makes beautiful bamboo stools. She makes a half a taka a day, 2 cents a day. That's because she doesn't have the money to buy the bamboo and is dependent on a trader to give her the bamboo in exchange for the finished product at a price he fixes. That's 2 cents a day. Yunus loans her 22 taka, less than $1. Now she's able to buy the bamboo and sell the product herself at the market. Her income skyrockets from 2 cents a day to $1.25 a day. Now she's able to feed her daughter 3 meals a day instead of 1. She can send her daughter to school, and she can put a tin roof on her house to keep the rain out. Yunus was doing something unheard of. He was making tiny loans to poor, illiterate women without collateral and getting a 98% on-time repayment rate with interest, all based on trust. He calls these tiny loans microcredit. We land in Dhaka. We meet with Yunus. Believe it or not, that's me on the right. We then break up in 2s and 3s, and we live with the bank workers. We learn how the bank works. We meet and interview the borrowers. I'm on the left there, and on the right is a reporter from the Washington Post that we invite to join us. Her name is Molly Moore. And before we leave Bangladesh, her article about Yunus and the Grameen Bank appears on the front page of the Washington Post. Like Sophia Begum, Each one of these women borrowers has her own incredible story about the impact of these tiny loans on their families. Amazed, I just know this idea is going to be very, very big. Now, on our way home, our first stop is Karachi, Pakistan. Waiting for the next flight, I wander around the airport. I see a newsstand. I go through newspapers and magazines, and I look up, and there standing an elderly gentleman with the Sunday New York Times under his arm. It's Robert McNamara. And for those that don't know that name, he was the Secretary of Defense under Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, and with later the World Bank president. We chat for a couple minutes, and then he's gone. Turns out he's on the same flight. I'm upset with myself because I've missed this chance to talk to McNamara about Eunice and the Grameen Bank and what Eunice is up to. Back on board the plane, I create and rehearse in my mind a 2-minute laser talk about microcredit in hopes of getting another chance to talk to McNamara. Because you see, McNamara is a very powerful, well-connected person. If so inspired, he could make things happen. We land in Brussels to refuel. They let us off the plane. I rush forward to try to find McNamara. I spot him going toward the men's bathroom. I follow him, and I maneuver my way so that I'm at the urinal next to his. Luckily, given his age, I was able to get through my entire 2-minute talk. He says, "You know, I think I've read something recently about what you're talking about." I'm sure it was Molly Moore's article on the front page of the Washington Post. That day, I did my job as a citizen. I followed an old man into the men's bathroom in hopes of changing the world. But I wasn't always like that. This is how I became that person. September 30th, 1985. I remember the date because my life has not been the same since. I'm invited to a meeting. There are 2 women there from Los Angeles representing the advocacy group Results. I learned that 40,000 children under the age of 5 are dying daily from preventable causes. Preventable. They're dying from lack of an immunization, from mothers not knowing the value of breastfeeding, or lack of 2 cents worth of vitamin A to be given in an entire year, because of diarrhea and lack of a 10-cent packet of oral rehydration salts. This night is an epiphany for me. I'm embarrassed by my own way of thinking, which before the meeting went something like this. If there was a big problem that had a solution, somebody would take care of it. Our elected leaders or somebody rich. But of course, that's not the way things happen. Things happen when people get together, organize, and make it good politics for things to happen. This night I also learned there are things that I can do to help end this tragedy. I can learn the issues. I can write letters to my congressman or the editors of my local newspaper. I can meet with my congressman. I can meet with editorial writers. These things I can see myself do. In fact, they sound like fun. I decide I can no longer sit on the sidelines hoping others will take care of things. It is up to me. I write my first letter to my congressman. At the end of the night, at the new results group in Salt Lake City, and I'm its group leader. Our very first campaign was to increase the amount of money the U.S. spends in foreign aid on these low-cost interventions like I was talking about. We wanted to increase the amount of money going to the Child Survival Fund from $25 million a year to $75 million a year. We met with all three of our Utah congressmen. We met with editorial writers at the Deseret News and the Salt Lake Tribune, who both wrote very nice editorials in support. While we worked on our congressional delegations, volunteers in other cities throughout the U.S. worked on theirs. One response I remember well was the aide to Senator Hatch. He said, "Forget it. It's not going to happen. There is no money." So that year, Results volunteers in 60 cities in the U.S. saw the Child Survival Fund go from $25 million to $75 million a year. Now, most every year since then, we've lobbied Congress to appropriate more money for these kinds of activities. Other countries have taken our lead. It's now called the Maternal and Child Health Account and is supported by Republicans and Democrats. And last year was funded over $900 million a year. Now, what's happened with preventable child deaths? They've gone from 40,000 a day to less than 14,000 a day, a drop of 2/3. And public health officials tell us that we can reduce that to 0 if we really want to. This is the best news that nobody's heard of. Now, President Trump has made cuts this year, but Congress and the U.S. public wants this funding to be restored. So, I have become an activist, and I'm proud to say that. I work with groups of citizens, fellow citizens, in groups like Results and Citizens Climate Lobby. We approach our elected officials with respect. We seek shared values. We seek relationships based on trust, integrity, and optimism. I choose to be optimistic about our future. Alex Steffen, the author and futurist, said, "Optimism is a political act. Those that benefit from the status quo are more than happy for us to think things are never going to get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. Cynicism is obedience." In 2006, Muhammad Yunus wins the Nobel Peace Prize. He asked me to be there. Here I am with Yunus at the Nobel banquet. It was 30 years from that very first loan to winning the Nobel Peace Prize. I got to see conventional wisdom overturned in that time period. It went from, are you crazy? Are you stupid? You can't loan poor illiterate women money without collateral, to 30 years later, of course it works. This is my U.S. Senator, Robert Bennett. Within a week of his election, I'm meeting with him to talk about microcredit. He's never heard of it, but he loves the idea. Years later, he's put on the key subcommittee that oversees U.S. foreign aid spending. He's able to increase the amount of money going to small loans to $265 million a year, annually. In this picture, he's showing off an item that he bought from a microcredit borrower in a U.S.-supported program in Morocco. When he leaves the Senate after 18 years, he says that his work on microcredit is one of 3 things he is most proud of during his time in the Senate. Oh, and remember Robert McNamara? In advance of the first microcredit summit, at which goals will be set to spread Yunus's idea throughout the world, Results held a preparatory meeting, and in the audience was Robert McNamara. Today, there are over 300 million families in the world that have a microloan. In 1992, I came to Bangladesh seeking inspiration. What I found was the power of possibility. Today, I return to Bangladesh. I can feel the power of possibility. You are in the midst of creating a democratic Bangladesh 2.0. You have elections on February 12th. Your responsibility as a citizen of a democracy doesn't end with voting. It's only the beginning. Pick a problem that you're passionate about. It could be poverty, the environment, corruption, education reform, whatever moves you. Find like-minded people. Organize. Take action. Things do not get better without activists. The only thing stopping you from changing the world is you. Become the kind of person willing to follow an old man into the men's bathroom in hopes of changing the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. We would like to request you to stay on stage for your tokens of appreciation. There's our lead licensee Sumaya Kabir again, handing over the tokens of appreciation to Mr. Scott Leckman. He has traveled all the way to Dhaka around the world to share his dedication to human values and global health. Thank you so much, Scott. Let's give him another big round of applause.